Hello everyone and welcome to the Commexis cast, all the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. Today we're talking about some companies using Instagram to bridge the gap between their Facebook audience and their Instagram audience. Hello everyone, I'm McGrorty, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis, and today I'm joined by the lead strategist at Commexis, Phillip.
Hello.
So today we're talking about companies who are using Facebook and Instagram to sort of bolster and improve both audiences on their platform, some using it to bolster Facebook, some using it to improve Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of this is coming sort of as a result of the Facebook algorithm update that happened in January. So for those of you who don't remember what that was, basically Facebook made it so that in the algorithm and in your news feed you will see less content from publishers and from different brands and companies, et cetera, and more content from your friends, your family, and a lot more content that is much more engaging. So a lot of companies were kind of looking for a way to boost their audience or maintain their audience in a way that they really hadn't had to have done before, and a lot of the times we discussed it at least,
right.
Or we discussed it with Jim, and et cetera, it was that this was going to become a much heavier pay-to-play space, which it has in general, right? But there are a couple ways that are being used organically to sort of boost these audiences. So for example, First Media was able to increase the Instagram followers for two of its brands, its So Yummy and Blusher brands, after Facebook viewers tapped on cross-posted stories from Instagram to Facebook to get to their Instagram profile. So one of the things that Instagram allows you to do is make an Instagram story. So it's basically exactly like a Snapchat story. But Facebook also has this capability, though it's not used nearly as often, at least I find. But one of the things that Instagram can do is it can cross-post them onto your Facebook profile, and Instagram has swipe up links for people who have and brands who have a certain follower count. I believe it's 1,000 or more, something like that. So you can directly link to a blog, to a product, to a video, something like that, right? So what was happening was people were seeing these on Facebook, and then they were able to be brought to Instagram and look at this link, or at least go to the Instagram profile and check them out. So this brand, within 10 days, So Yummy was increasing its Instagram followers by 34% to 6,358 new followers a day from what it was adding previously, said Yuval Rector, First Media's head of digital. On the same basis, Blusher saw its average daily additions increase by 284% to 2,301 new followers. So this growth drives referral traffic from Instagram through those swipe up links, which is really nice. First Media said that Facebook Instant Articles actually performed worse in comparison to Instagram Stories because they received 40,000 swipe ups in that span of time, whereas Facebook Instant Articles were significantly fewer. They didn't share the exact numbers, but we've also talked about in the past that Facebook Instant Articles aren't always super useful for a lot of
people aren't using them at all. So
one of the things that I with all of these numbers that I want to talk about is kind of the way that Instagram stories can be used to sort of draw more impressions and more traffic in a different way than a lot of people expect. So Philip, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's really neat that they have this synergistic relationship between the two platforms. I mean, it makes sense simply because they're owned by the same company, obviously, and so therefore they should add some sort of weight to links that are coming from and profiles that are verified on one should have some sort of I would imagine kind of like they go to the front of the line kind of thing. So from that perspective, it makes perfect sense to me. I think that it's there's a good barrier with the 1,000 follower minimum to be able to use those swipe up links, but I think it also says that you need to have a presence established and you need to show that you've understood how to use the platform correctly, and you have an audience that's used to seeing engaging content from you. So I think it's one of those things that it sounds like a no-brainer until somebody does it and they're like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense kind of thing. So for me, I think that's kind of where I would look at it. I think the biggest hurdle that we have for some of the clients that we would want to use this type of strategy for is simply because we don't have clients with these kinds of follower counts right now. And I think that's something that we really need to concentrate on in our service offerings going forward is helping people build up that account, how to build up their relationships, and just learn better ways to engage outside of content.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that's important to know, obviously we're talking about, companies and brands with these swipe ups. Obviously, I'm sure most of these brands are probably swiping up and sending to a blog post or something like that on the website. But it's important to remember that Instagram stories, Facebook stories by extension, and even Snapchat stories, depending on, who your clientele are not inherently useless just because you can't add links to them. Though I will say Snapchat does let you add links without a requirement. They can still be engaging and interesting pieces of content that you are, pushing out there, even if it's not, super high professionally produced.
Keep in mind again, the aspiration is you have to have a certain lowest threshold of followers. So if you're not putting out decent content in the first place, you're never going to get there. So you might as well get in the habit of creating decent content on a regular cadence, making sure that you're understanding who's following you already, and you'll have a much better idea of how to build your audience out that way. If you're just kind of, just moving along and hoping that somebody's going to discover you because you're awesome, that's not going to work for the most part. I mean, it happens obviously in some cases, but I think that's the minority most of the time. I mean, you really need to hustle these days to get your account out there so that it shows something. In short of any sort of viral, explosion, you're going to have to, establish a regular basically editorial calendar for your own content.
Yeah, I completely agree, and sort of what I'm talking about isn't necessarily against that so much as it is, when I think of produced content, right, like highly produced content, I am thinking of like super well done commercials, super well done different kinds of ads and stuff like that. Yeah. But an Instagram story, while it can be those things, and I've as somebody who's a videographer and I check out a lot of videography things, there's a lot of people who do put together very specifically like just Instagram stories, either for themselves, for brands, stuff like that. But to your point, you can still make an Instagram story post or a story, multiple posts across the day or whatever, without reaching those levels of high production. Though certainly it helps, just by being smart in what you're talking about, what hashtags you're using in those posts.
That would have been my next point. Yeah, I was about to say, the hashtags are a big advantage, especially on Instagram. But if you can find those where you can cross over platforms, between Twitter and Instagram and stuff, those are really good ways to kind of harness what's going on right now and talk about things to at least get what you want to say out in front of the maximum amount of eyes. But again, don't let the fact that you're starting off discourage you. Just remember that it's going to take a lot of hard work and it's going to take time, and don't get discouraged because you're going to need to build out that editorial calendar until you get to that 1,000 follower threshold, and then once you're there, you have this new suite of tools that you can work with to really build that synergistic relationship with Facebook. So if you're on Instagram and that's the kind of content that you're concentrating on, I would definitely commit to something like that, just so you know that eventually you're going to have the ability to get that whole relationship going.
Absolutely. Consistency is key. Well, thank you everybody for tuning into today's episode of the Commexis Cast. Thank you, Phillip, for joining me today as well. Check us out on TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and the iTunes podcast store to listen to us. If you would like to watch our content, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Normally it's facebook.com/Commexis or /Commexis1. You can also check us out on YouTube, and if you're watching us right now, then it's likely that you're on one of those platforms. So thank you for watching, and also thank you for listening, for those of you who are listening and watching or just listening. So thank you, and have a great day.